Hey, Shalom, Israel. You on live with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Priest and Captain Soccer War coming to y'all Thursday evening. Normally it's a scripture breakdown class, but seeing as though we are in the midst of the feast of Hachaanakah, like I said yesterday in yesterday's class, I'm gonna take the next 8 days as we celebrate the feast of Hachaanakah, and for every day I'm gonna go live for a little while just to break down, aspects of what the celebration of Hachaanakah is all about, why it's important for today, and what are some of the lessons that we can learn, from these events that transpired in the past to empower and to focus us in the times that we're living in today, to really stay focused on the Most High, stay diligent in keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, so that, by taking a look at the past and understanding what we have gone through in previous generations, we can draw on their strength, draw on their courage, draw on their wisdom to be able to navigate our ways through the times that we're living in today. If you're someone who's tuning in for the first time, we are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge out of 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York. We've been teaching since 1969. ISUPK has been teaching the truth according to this book called the Bible. You understand? Shout out to a brother, Ephraimite brother in New York. I'll get the brother's name right now. I got this Bible online for free, man. I put in an order for it a few weeks ago. It came today. Pretty soon it's going to be marked up. It's going to have all kinds of, marker in it, highlighted. It's going to have all types of sticky notes sticking out of it with different scriptures, you know what I'm saying? But shout out to that brother for this Bible. The truth according to the Bible is that so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And in 2020, in these times that we're living in, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding contained in the Bible is definitely important for our people to receive and to understand and to embrace. We're living in very trying times, very transformative times in many different ways, and nothing is going to be able to sustain us and propel us forward like knowing who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is on this earth. All right. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have classes here in Memphis, Tennessee. Any of you brothers and sisters tuning in, if you got family, loved ones, people you care about in the Memphis, Tennessee, North Mississippi, West Arkansas areas, get them in contact with us so they can draw close to us and be able to capture this brotherhood, sisterhood, and this discipline and service of the Most High that we have here in the ISUPK. All right. Tuesday is brotherhood class. Wednesday is biblical law. Thursday is scripture breakdown. But as I said before, we are in the feast of Hachaanakah, which is a feast that is celebrated over the space of 8 days. It began last night, sundown, so tonight is night 2. Yesterday, what we did for class, we went through the first chapter of the book of First Maccabees in the Apocrypha. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Bible, in 1611, King James commissioned for Hebrew and Greek scholars to translate the records that were in those languages into the Hebrew language. And so when the 1611 King James authorized version of the Bible was released, there was an Old Testament, a New Testament, and there were 14 books in between, which is known as the Apocrypha. Well, later on, during the Protestant Reformation, that was during the time of a man named Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but the original Martin Luther. The Protestant church had the 14 books of the Apocrypha removed. I'm not sure what the reason they gave, but if you read through the Apocrypha, a lot of the history of the children of Israel after the Babylonian captivity and before the time of Christ, there was a lot of suffering that the Israelites faced at the hands of the Greeks and the Romans. And a lot of that suffering had to do with their culture being stripped, their heritage being, to celebrate their culture being outlawed, to keep the laws of God, became criminal. And the reason why the Protestant wanted to remove that information was because in order to teach us the religion of Christianity, in order to teach us to accept being slaves and look at our slave masters as if they were gods, they had to remove all the knowledge of how we were conquered in the past in order for us to accept being conquered in the generations that we were being taught to accept Christianity. So the Protestants read through the history of the Apocrypha and said, we cannot let these niggas read this because they'll know that what we're doing to them now is exactly what happened to the children of Israel during this time. You understand? And so they removed those 14 books. They removed them, and they became known as the Apocrypha. You can find the Apocrypha today if you get you a 1611 King James Authorized Version, or if you go to the ISUPK on our website, we have a book list you can buy the Apocrypha there. You understand? So yesterday we went through the first chapter of the book of First Maccabees, just showing you some of the history of what was taking place in the land of Israel prior to the Greeks conquering us, and what subsequently happened after the death of Alexander the Great and the generals that took over in his stead. And so we read the history of how we went from a time of relative peace in the land of Israel, living under the Persians and the Mede Empire, living under the laws that King Cyrus passed, allowing us to go back into our land, allowing us to rebuild our temple, rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. We went from a time of relative peace under the foot of the Persians right into a time of suffering and harsh oppression under the Greeks, specifically under the Antiochus dynasty of the Greeks. And so we read their history in First Maccabees yesterday, and today we're going to get to First Maccabees, the second chapter. And what we're going to read in First Maccabees, the second chapter, is about the valiant heroism of some brothers who lived during the time when the Greeks began to outlaw Israelite culture, during the time when the Greeks began to force us to take on their culture. It was no longer something that was voluntary. They began to force us to accept their culture, force us to no longer be able to practice who being Israelites and to keep our laws and to keep our customs. The Greeks sought to wipe out all pride that we had in who we were, and sought to force us to assimilate into adopting Greek culture and becoming what the world today calls Hellenized. All right, so we're gonna read about those brothers today. But before we get there, first scripture we're gonna go to, I'm gonna go into the Bible. Let me give you some scriptures that these brothers drew inspiration from. You know what I'm saying? When we about to read in First Maccabees, the second chapter, those brothers were able to stand up in that time, and they were able to do what they did and put their lives on the line because they understood the lessons that history had taught them from the records they received of their ancestors before their generation. This is Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 23. Matter of fact, give me Joshua chapter 1. No. Let me get this. Joshua 30. This is Deuteronomy, Salakia. Deuteronomy 31 and 7. Everybody understands? It's good. Deuteronomy 31 and 7. All right. Let me get Deuteronomy 31 and 7. Open up this brand new Bible I got here. Deuteronomy 31 and 7. Here's Deuteronomy 31 and 7. It says, and Moses called unto Joshua and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and of a good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord hath sworn unto their fathers to give them, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. And the Lord, he it is that does go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear thee not, neither be dismayed. Moses charged Joshua, you understand, to be courageous and to not be afraid, to be of good cheer, knowing that the thing that he was going to do was what the Lord had ordained. And in order to be a man of God, in order to lead God's people, you have got to be a man that is not afraid. You have got to be a man that is strong and of good courage. And that is what the Lord called Joshua to do. And we all know what Joshua did when he went into the promised land, how he led the children of Israel and fought wars with the other nations in order for us to be able to have the land that the Most High promised that we would be able to inherit. You understand? Let me get you some more scriptures. Let me get See some. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 15. You get 2 Chronicles 20 and 15. Second Chronicles chapter 20, verse 15. All right. All right, here we go. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 17. It says, "Ye shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of the Lord with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Fear not, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for the Lord will be with you." You understand? So they're saying that the time when these brothers were going to go out to war, you understand, the Most High gave them words saying, don't be afraid, don't be dismayed, for the battle that you're going out to fight is the battle that you are fighting for the Lord. Everybody understands? Let me see something. There's plenty of scriptures that gives men of war, men who are going into battle, gives them strength and gives them courage, gives them reassurance that the work that they are going to do, if it is in the name of the Most High, then all they are vessels for the Lord to use to get his purposes, accomplished. And that is the way that we must think, especially in times such as these and times going forward when we are faced with adversity, when we're faced with difficulty. We have got to know that the Most High is with us. We have got to know that if this is the Most High's will, that we go out to war, we go out to battle, or we go out to stand for him, that it is the Most High that is standing. You understand? And if the Most High is with you, who can be against you? The Bible is full of words of wisdom and encouragement and strength to give those who have courage, to give those, you understand, who are fearless, to give those who are not afraid the reassurance that they need to stand with the Most High and to go through and get done whatever the Lord sees fit for them to get done. You understand? And so that's what we're going to read about tonight in the book of 1 Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. If anybody has any questions, y'all can type them in before I go ahead and get to 1 Maccabees, the 2nd chapter, all right? All right. Here we go. It's 1 Maccabees chapter 2. And remember, keep in mind that as we're going to read 1 Maccabees chapter 2, this is during a time after the children of Israel have been conquered by the Greeks. This is during a time where we've seen men in our nation sell out and turn their backs on the Lord and turn their backs on our culture and go full-fledged into joining the oppressor and able to get a piece of what that oppressor has. So we're going to read about brothers and sisters who are living in a time of occupation, living in a time where they've seen Jerusalem conquered. They've seen the city of David be taken over by heathens. They've seen the ransacking of the temple and the destruction of Jerusalem. You understand? And in their cities that are on the outskirts of Jerusalem, on the outskirts of the city of David, brothers and sisters are now coming face to face with this occupying force that is in our land, that is now coming down and forcing further oppressions on us. Everybody understands? So again, the time we're about to read about now is similar to what we are living in America today, where we're in our cities and we have, black communities, the black side of town, but it's being policed by our oppressor. You understand? We're living in our ghettos and we have our neighborhoods, but we're not allowed to be the ones in charge and be the ones making the decisions. We are not the government officials and the ones who are in charge and responsible for different things, you know, getting done or being taken care of in our community. So a lot of what we're going to read tonight is similar to the conditions they were under are very similar to the conditions that we are under today, which is why it's important that we can read about these brothers and what they went through and take some you know, draw some wisdom from what it is that they were able to endure and go through for ourselves in this time that we are living in now. Everybody understand? You understand? All right, so here we go. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 2. It says, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jarib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. Everybody understand? So this is a brother named Mattathias. His father's name was John, and he was from the tribe of Simeon. Everybody understands? He was a priest of the sons of Jorib. You understand? The way you would say that in Hebrew is Yarawab. Yarawab from Yarasham, and dwelt in Mawadin. All right. Verse 2. And he had 5 sons. Johanan called Caddis, Simon called Thassi, and Judas, who was called Maccabeus. So Mattathias had 5 sons. Eleazar called Avaran, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphus. You understand? And when he saw that, well, let me say this also. You see these brothers, they have their names, but they also have their surnames. That's because in Israel, it's always been a tradition that a brother was born and was given a name at birth. And then when he became a man of age or came into the truth, he, you know, inherited a name or was given a name from the Most High. So these brothers, they all were given their names from their father, but then they had surnames or names that they were called. Everybody understands? Reading on. Verse 6, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me. Wherefore was I born to see the misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bond slave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? This is a brother who is in deep mourning. It's a brother who is in deep sorrow over what he has watched transpire with his people. As he watched our community be destroyed, watched our young men be murdered, watched our daughters go into captivity and become slaves to another nation. This is a brother who was heartbroken over what he has seen befall his people, and he's crying out to the Lord. Verse 14, then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. You understand? This brother was in mourning. Let me get another scripture. Let's get Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 8. Get Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 8. And as we get Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 8, we're going to read at another time in our history where the Lord and the Lord, you understand, took notice of the men who cared enough about our nation, you understand, to plead to the Lord, to cry out to the Most High. And those are the times that we are in today. We are in times where the Most High is looking for men who are pleading for him, looking to see who is crying and sighing for the evil that has befallen our people. You understand? This is what the Most High was looking for in this time. And we're seeing that it was taking place with this brother named Mattathias. You understand? Bear with me 1 second, y'all. Bear with me. All right. Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 8. Let me get it. Here's what Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 8 says, and this is what Mattathias was going through, watching his people suffer, watching his people go through it. You understand? So like in that Ezekiel 3 and 8, it's Ezekiel 8, I believe it's Ezekiel 8 and 3. Bear with me, y'all. Yeah, it's Ezekiel, hold on, I believe it's Ezekiel 8 and 3. Ezekiel 9 and 4. It's Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. It says, and the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. You understand? Mattathias and his sons, they were men that sighed and cried for all the abominations that were being done amongst our people. For all the evil that they saw happening to the children of Israel, they were sighing and crying. And that sighing and crying is a mark of a brother who got the spirit of the Lord on. To see your children, see your people destroyed, see your people living in hell, and to sigh and to cry, to empathize with them, to want to see something done, to want to see a change happen. That's the mark of a man who has the spirit of the Most High. And that was a mark that was on Mattathias and his sons. You understand? Going back to 1 Maccabees, the 2nd chapter. Verse 15 says, in the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. So these king's officers, these are men who are coming to the city to see who's loyal to the king, who's loyal to the Greeks. And as they gather together, Mattathias and his sons are gathered together as well. Verse 17, then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, meaning this is how they spoke to Mattathias. Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now, therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold, and many rewards. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left. You understand? Mattathias showed strength in this moment. Mattathias showed honor in this moment. Mattathias had dignity and integrity. Mattathias was a man that was strong and of good courage. And in the face of sure death, in the face of sure warfare, he refused to turn his back on the Lord and his people. He refused to be the camel that broke, that would show to other people that it was okay to give in. Mattathias took a stand and he would rather die than to forsake the Most High. Verse 24, verse 23. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. And understand this, for every man there is that takes a stand, there's 1,000 who will fold and fall. For every brother that stands strong, there's 1,000 that'll tuck their tail and run. And as Mattathias showed this great courage, as Mattathias took this strong stand, there were men there who were ready to give in, ready to give up. Verse 24, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him on the altar. Now y'all heard this broken down many times. Mattathias saw this man going to sell out, going to make an evil example. Mattathias couldn't help himself. Mattathias could not hold back. He ran and he slew that man. What Mattathias felt, what Mattathias went through is what Moses went through watching an Egyptian smite the children of Israel. What Mattathias felt, what Mattathias experienced was what David experienced. You understand? On the battlefield, standing for the Lord. Mattathias had the spirit of the Lord on him, that he could not stand for such great evil to befall his people. Reading on, verse 25. Also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phinehas did under Zambri, the son of Salam. Phinehas is another brother who went through the same thing. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintains the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children, and their wives, and their cattle, because afflictions increased so upon them. Now when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number. And having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. They said unto them, let that which ye do, what ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, we will not come forth, and neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, let us all die in our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully. So these men that ran into the wilderness, the army that was camped up in Jerusalem, they came against these brothers. And this first group of brothers they encountered, they tried to go to war with them on the Sabbath. And these cats said, we not going to fight on the Sabbath, man. We going, nah, we ain't fighting. Damn that. Y'all going to kill us. Y'all going to kill us. We'll die innocent. You understand? They thought that they thought it honorable to die. They thought it honorable not to fight back. You understand? Bear with me. Bear with me, y'all. All right. So these brothers died not fighting. You understand? First Maccabees chapter 1, chapter 2. First Maccabees chapter 2, Verse 39. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, see, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. So one brother said, well, damn, if we all go down like that, we'll be gone before you know it. They'll kill all of us. Verse 42, at that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we all die as our brethren that were murdered in secret places. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor. So when these brothers gathered together, they started going to war with everybody. You was an Israelite and you was evil, they was gutting you. If you was an Israelite that sided with the Greeks, they was gutting you. It was us against them. It wasn't no gray area. Everybody understands. Verse 45, then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pursued also the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Bear with me. All right. First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 48. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now, when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Bear with me. Salakia. First Maccabees 2 and 48. No, First Maccabees 2 and 49. Now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now has pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Hold up. First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 50. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phineas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Yahushua, for fulfilling the words, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness for the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, and Misael, by believing, were saved out of the flame. That's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for those of y'all that don't know. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. Today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found. Because he is returned into his dust, and his thought has come to nothing. Wherefore, ye my sons, be valiant and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law. For by it shall ye obtain glory. And behold, I know your brother Simon. Salakia, behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be a father unto you. As for Judas Maccabeus, he hath been mighty and strong even from his youth up. Let him be your captain and fight the battle of the people. Take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. So he blessed them and was gathered to his fathers. And he died in 146th year, and his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers in Moden, and all Israel made great lamentation for him. Now this brother Mattathias, in the valiancy that he showed in standing for the law, in the integrity and the honor, that he stood for our people, he is added to the list of men that we remember today. Mattathias Maccabeus is a man who's added to the list of the names that includes David, that includes Abraham, that includes Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel. You understand? And Yahushua, the son of Nun, that's Joshua for y'all that don't know in the Old Testament. And Elijah, for standing with the Lord, for not bowing in the face of danger. These men, this man and his sons, their names were added to the long list of the names of men who have stood for the Lord. And in every lifetime, the Lord gives a man an opportunity for his name to be added. The Lord gives a man an opportunity to show valiancy, to show courage, to show that he has what it takes to gain the honor of his generation and generations to come. So as we celebrate tonight, as we're thankful to the Most High for the great, amazing work he did in delivering us from the hands of the Greeks, for allowing us to rededicate our temple, let's remember Mattathias Maccabees. Let's remember his sons and all the valiant men of that time that stood for the Lord in the face of utter danger, and let it encourage us to take our stand when the Lord calls on us for our time. And with that, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge out of 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York, you understand, like I said, for the next 7 days, starting yesterday, the space of 8 days, we are in the Feast of Hachaanakah. Every night I'm going to go live for a little bit, bring out a little bit more about Hachaanakah and why we celebrate it, why it's important for us to remember what these brothers and sisters went through so that we can draw strength to go through what it is the Lord is calling us to endure in this time that we're living in. You understand? Normally, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have classes here in Memphis, Tennessee from 7 to 9 p.m. You brothers and sisters tuning in, you got family, loved ones, people you care about that's in this area, get them in contact with us, all right? I'm clipping the class a little early. I know shortly General Muhammad out there in Las Vegas is going to be going live on the online classes space. You brothers and sisters tune in. You know what I'm saying? With that, I'm Captain Soccer War here in Memphis. Shalom, Israel.